If you've been on Twitter at any point in your life, you probably know what a stan is. People who dedicate their entire online existence to praising one content creator, theming their entire accounts around them, using them as their profile picture, responding to all of their tweets, etc. Well, these type of people used to be a niche, but recently they've become more and more prevalent as more people are introduced to the internet. A lot of people find this behavior to be obsessive and concerning. One of those people is Jawsh, who tweets out, "If you are a stan, a part of a TWT group, or participate in any activities associated with the culture, please unfollow. I cannot tolerate it any longer and wish to have nothing to do with it. I don't care if it has to do with me or somebody else. The culture is toxic. Every experience I've ever had with the community is negative. I am sick of looking at Instagram and seeing that I'm tagged in yet another edit made with some garbage phone app. I am tired of random people obsessing over me, and more so obsessing over people such as Dream. These people are unwell mentally. Their obsessions with online personalities only amplify this. They are immature and easily influenced. Their principles and views are never their own, but are rather those of the various content creators which they watch. They are a malicious hive mind who exist in a bubble in which immoral actions are taken by an individual simply because their moral frame of reference is people who do similar things. Their worldview is completely insane, and get exponentially worse because of it. Twitter has helped amplify this, as the platform has become overrun by this garbage. So please, if you are part of any of these circles, I want nothing to do with you or your collective hive mind. It's disgusting. I believe primarily in the individual, and the culture individual does not exist in the collective that is the stan or TWT community. It is repulsive and entirely against my principles. If you are part of one of these communities, I suggest you leave. Even if leaving means losing your friends, you should do it, as those people most likely weren't your friends to begin with. This beast needs to be slaughtered. It is horrifying that it even exists. Any community in which group cohesion is placed above the rights of the individual to speak and think freely is inherently evil. The stan community is a manifestation of this. The stan community is some kind of pseudo-authoritarianism, in which the authority figure is actually a figurehead and the true tyranny is perpetuated by the majority, the mob. The same concept applies to every single community centered around so-called political commentators and pundits on the internet. Their communities function in much of the same way. I do not need to name names. You know who these people are. Stop idolizing internet personalities. I don't care who they are. I don't care if you think they are funny, or agree with them on politics, or whatever. If they permit a collective like this to form around them, and they allow it to not only continue but to grow, they are monsters. They are not your friend. They do not care about you. All they care about is hearing positive things about themselves and making their wallets fatter. Generally speaking, of course. There are exceptions to the rule, otherwise this statement stands. Whack responds to him by saying, "Would this apply for you?" Jawsh responds, "If I ever get into a cult of personality, then yes." Cole responds to him by saying, "Do you need help finding a therapist?" Jawsh responds, "Everyone who participates in the stan community could make better use of one than I could. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm serious. It is concerning." Frosty quote tweets him and says, "He's completely right. Any normal person would be creeped out by a stranger being absolutely obsessed with them. It's sad how creators are allowing this to happen in the gaming scene, so they can feed their egos, insecurities, and easily manipulate their stans. If you thought gaming was toxic in the early 2010s, wait until you see this kind of thing becomes the norm, and every creator's community has the same with us or against us mentality." I don't know the OP, but he's getting hate for speaking the objective truth. You have my respect, Jawsh. The stans aren't the issue here. They're kids and they don't know any better. The issue is the content creators not setting boundaries with their fans because they are scared of pushing them away. If you read that thread and your take is that he's attacking kids, you missed the point. Pegasus responds to Jawsh by saying, "Dude has a point, but this thread is the cringiest shit I've ever seen. They ain't demons, bro. They 13-year-old girls going kiss 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 kiss. Chill, laughing my ass off." Cole responds to Jawsh by saying, "You're right. I will not make friends online anymore. I think I'll try something cooler, like hard drugs." Noah Hugbox responds to Jawsh by saying, "It's a manifestation of a runaway psychology exploitative marketing tactics from different corners of the entertainment industry designed to create cults of personality. I do not hate them. I pity them for being consumed and manipulated." Jawsh responds, "I hate the concept, not the people. The people have been manipulated. I agree wholeheartedly and understand its origin. I wish for its death. The people who perpetuate the existence of this collective culture are the ones who should be held to account. They are the monsters." Prado responds to him by saying, "Homie, you just called us mentally ill?" Ethan responds, "How?" Prado responds, "In his tyrant generalizing all fans." Josh responds, tyranny of the mob is real, and if you think those who watch my content all participate in this terrifying collective, you are wrong. But the majority of stans? Yes, I would say that tyranny of the majority is one of its defining characteristics. Remy responds to Josh by saying, not everyone shares your ideas that the individual is more important than the collective. What do you have to say to that? This could be a conclusion they reached of their own volition, and should be respected as much as your view. Make it make sense. Josh responds, then don't follow me. To which Remy responds, yeah, I don't think anyone of this mindset follows you at this point. But you should consider other points of view instead of being extremely rude and aggressive towards a group of people whose opinions are, by your logic, just as valid as yours. Josh responds, I typically do have genuine conversation on here. I had a nice conversation with the communist a few months ago on here. We disagree on principle, but still cordial to one another. These people are not cordial. Thus, I am stern, or rude. I appreciate your civility. Remy responds, this isn't a discussion. You posted a thread, unprompted, directed at a vague subcommunity which you unfairly generalized, and didn't give a chance to defend themselves. This isn't an open discussion. This is you attacking stans based on your limited experience. Josh responds, my experience is far less limited than yours, I am sure. I am directly affected by it. It is not vague. As a whole, I see the community as a negative for every party that is involved, except for those who profit from it. It does not matter if it was prompted or not, it's my alt. Peachy Ringo responds to Josh by saying, man's learned the definition of evil and ran with it. You are genuinely comparing groups of teenagers having fun on Twitter as beasts. Might as well call them heathens while you're at it. Josh responds, if that group having fun comes at the expense of the well-being of themselves and other, either physical or mental, then yes, it is evil. You cannot argue it has not resulted in harm, as I have witnessed otherwise. It is evil. The discussion around this thread then gets kicked up a notch when the YouTuber Dream responds to Josh by saying, you are an idiot. Josh responds to him by saying, good argument. I am glad that instead of actually making an attempt to prove me wrong, that you instead choose to reply with insults. It proves you are as immature as your child viewers and your bandwagoning friends. Dream responds by saying, just because you think you have 1000 IQ because you passed middle school English doesn't make you any better than the rest of us. Never argue with an idiot. They will drag you down to their level and beat you with experience. Feel free to read my tweets for how I feel though. Pin responded to Josh by saying, like calling stan culture an authoritarian tyrannical ruling is any better. Josh responds to him by saying, a content creator who insults another without argument and sends his fans to attack them, a mob if you will, is a tyrant. I stand by everything I said. Net Nobody responds to Josh by saying, I got this. This is stupid because you are forcing yourself in an established community, seeing only the bad and labeling that part as the culture, and telling people following the already established culture you are shoving yourself into that it is bad because of one part. Josh responds to him by saying, I forced myself into nothing. I wanted nothing from Dream. I observed how the stan community functioned from my own and drew my conclusions accordingly. The culture around it of worshipping Minecraft YouTubers like this guy and attacking anybody in a perceived outgroup is evil. B Artwork responds by saying, you mentioned him in your tweets. Saying you wanted nothing to do with him is stupid over the fact you mentioned him, and that brought his fans onto this. This is your issue, dude. Josh responds, I said you shouldn't idolize people like him. I'm giving an example. Don't idolize anybody. He chooses to insult. Definitely did not read the thread and is just going off of what his followers have told him, which is warped. My point has been proven soundly. Going back to Josh's original response to Net Nobody replies by saying, evil is reserved for super elites who eat brains in my eyes. Not some random fans on the internet who 5 years from now will probably be on some new platform watching something else. Yeah, sucks to see people idolize YouTubers now like celebrities. We better go after all celebs. Josh responds, I don't think evil is reserved for everyone. I agree on celebs, but it is also these celebs which let this cult of personality continue to exist. The culture is evil. I pitied the people in it. I hope they can grow out of it or get help if they need it. The culture is evil. Net Nobody responds, so you are evil? From what I've gathered, every community has bad eggs. You have stans that probably drop some fucked words once in a while. You are not in the culture. You are a bystanding viewer who formulated perception on a part of it. Shaming people into growth stunts it. Going back to Dream's response, Tubbo responds to him with a gif of Michael from The Office. Carl Jacobs responds to him by saying, Tubbo, this will be something to watch. Tubbo responds, Hell yeah, fight, 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 fight. Carl responds, "The popcorn ready," to which Tubbo responds, "Who you betting on?" Jawsh responds, "You guys are sick," to which Honk Toast says, "Good argument. I am glad that instead of making an actual attempt to prove me wrong, that you instead choose to reply with insults. Then you reply with this. Good thinking." Jawsh responds, "There was no argument to counter. They are just farming their Twitter off of this." Net Nobody then responds to him with this picture of a guy at a party saying, "They don't know I was RuneScape famous." In retaliation to Josh's Twitter thread about stans, Dream goes onto his Twitter to redefine the word stan for people who may feel ashamed of being a stan after reading Josh's Twitter thread. His tweet reads out, "Stans, a group of people trying to meet other people with similar interests, while expressing this interest through shared morals, love, and creativity." Carl Jacobs responds to him by saying, "Vouch. I've seen lots of people meet through my streams/my friends' streams and end up becoming good friends, and that's the most rewarding part of streaming to me right now." Noah Hugbox quote tweets Dream and says, "You are unironically such a fucking pussy, it's not even funny." Dream responds, "Here, I noticed you. Now go outside." Dream then retweets a tweet from Spiffy that says, "To generalize an entire culture of stans on a few toxic people is ignorant." Dream continues to talk about this when he tweets out, "It's weird to obsess over people having them as your profile pic. Always tweet about them." Tweeted by Tom Brady 7964, profile picture, Patriots logo, currently wearing Tom Brady jersey, most recent tweet, "Brady's going to pop off next game day. You just don't like the same thing as them, and that's okay. Don't use the crimes of the few to punish the many." Jawsh continues to make some more tweets about this as well. He says, "To those who don't think I understand that this allows you to get interactions, I am aware it does, and I prefer that it does. It allows more people to see how miserable this culture actually is." Kev responds, "That's why I'm in the culture, man. What did you expect? You saying that just makes me feel like more shit." Jawsh responds, "I'm sorry it makes you feel bad, but it doesn't make it any less true. Sometimes things are unpleasant to hear, but necessary. I wish you all the best. To people who believe I'm calling each and every one of you evil, you are either intentionally or unintentionally misunderstanding. I am not saying all of the people are bad. I am saying the culture that you can choose to not be a part of is evil. This is self-evident. It is this culture that feeds into such things as the rule of the mob on Twitter. You see garbage trending every day, and people like getting cancelled because of it. That's the tyranny of the mob. As individuals, all I'm saying is don't follow the mob. I wish all of you the best. I apologize for nothing." Diggity responds, "You are incredibly based, and I look up to you. Thank you." Jawsh responds, "Don't. I play video games. I have nothing for you to look up to me for." Jawsh then goes onto his main Twitter account, reposting his original thread and saying, "This applies here as well." Dave responds to him by saying, "In my opinion, this is vastly overdramatic. I agree there are negatives to online echo chambers, but this thread is acting like Twitter stans are politically radicalized threats to society, when really they are just a group of kids that have found an outlet and a sense of community." Jawsh also tweets out, "I appreciate all of the YouTubers who replied to the thread insults instead of arguments, and their cronies who jumped on the bandwagon. You guys set a great example for the kids who watch your content." Call Me Carson responds to him by saying, "Can you take this opportunity to get these nuts trending? It'd be funny." Jawsh then makes a final Twitter thread on the situation when he tweets out, "I'm going to put this as concisely as possible so that nobody misinterprets this. Stan culture is bad. It is a collective that shuts down critical voices and the ability for one to think and speak freely. This has been made self-evident by the events of the last night. Stan culture is a bubble in which many people who have struggled with mental illness do not receive the help they need. Rather, their issues appear to be fed by an obsession with a particular individual. People are saying I hate people who simply enjoy something. That is not true. I use Dream as an example of someone who was put on a pedestal, and never implied that he himself was purposely causing stan culture to proliferate for his own profit. However, in one reply to a person, I did say there was a good chance it was the case. I said that the stan community is tyrannical because it is. It controls its platform with an iron fist by the means of mob rule. This again is self-evident. Dissenting voices are crushed by the mob while control of the trending page remains in their control. When I said that people in the community are mentally unwell, it was due to their own admission, with hyperfixation being the primary cause of their participation in the community. My point was being a stan is not a healthy way to cope with these issues. I wish nothing but the best for members of the community. I hope they can mature or find the help they need to leave this godforsaken place. The culture, not the people who participate in it, is evil. It has been made abundantly clear I was correct correct in what I said. If I regret anything, it is for coming off perhaps too harsh. However, I stand by everything I said. I never insulted anybody specifically. I was mad and attempted to remain civil. This is at least more than some content creators are able to do. I am sure I made some mistakes along the way, as anybody would since we are all human. However, in totality, I have little to no regrets. I hope this has cleared up the matter for some people. I know others will not listen and make it further evident that what I said is true. I wish all of you the best. I do not regret tweeting anything. This is something that needed to be said by somebody. And I know those content creators who profiteer off of it were not going to be the ones to do it. Take care, everyone. This is the last I have to say on the matter. After all of this discussion about stans, Dream decided to make this Twitter video in order to cheer the stans up.
I just woke up, so I hope I don't sound too bad, but I just wanted to put it out here that I love you and I care about you and that it will be okay. And I know that probably doesn't mean much to people who don't already follow me or look up to me or anything, but truly, I have your back, and my heart goes out to all people of color that follow me and that don't, and everybody who's been a victim of racism or discrimination or just horrible injustices. My heart really breaks every time I read a story about, the next new thing that's happened, and it feels like it just never ends. But I know that we can work together and we can stand strong, and it'll be okay in the end.
Carl Jacobs responds to Dream by saying, "You are a good guy, Dream," and setting a good example of how a creator can and should respond to situations like this. Thanks for helping me learn. Santa Loki responds to Dream by saying, "Okay, retard." And that's about it for this situation. If you want to keep up to date with more drama in the future, don't forget to subscribe with notifications on. Thank you so much to my channel members for supporting the channel. It helps me out a lot and I appreciate the support. But with all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in another video.